Go.
Tony, we're ready?
Do it.
Yeah. Let's jump in the fire.
All right, let's do it.
See how it goes.
So what's up? Welcome back to the second half on this hot 100-degree July 6th day. You've got here with me the terrible twosome. I'll let you introduce yourself, sir.
What's up? This is Launchpad. Glad to be back. Excited for our conversation with our guest.
Thank you, LP. And of course, we've got your boy Ride Boogie. And we have, well, first of all, we're here at Studio 925, best gym in the Bay Area. So if you haven't been, you know where to go. But we've got one of the pillars here, Anthony Edward de Sousa. Did I say that right?
Edward
Anthony de Sousa, joining us, otherwise known as Tony, formerly from DG Combat. Also, what's the other name? Tony Five Tigers.
Yeah.
Which you got to tell us about.
Yes,
in fact, let's go there. So welcome, Tony. Tony Five Tigers with us.
Tigers.
Who's gonna?
Cinco Tigres.
Cinco Tigres.
Oh, we gotta add in some audio. When we say Five Tigers, you gotta add in the row to the audio. Yeah.
I love the start. But anyhow, Tony, thank you, man. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. Welcome.
We've been trying to get him on the show, but this guy is Mr. Humility, and I told him that he has a lot to share because he's obviously made a lot of impact on a lot of people's lives. So, Tony.
I'll have to figure that out.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So let's just get into this because I really want to know where the Five Tigers comes from.
Well, if you ever hear or see the name changed to Tony Six Tigers, you could ask me where the next tattoo was. That's where it comes from.
Got it.
Okay.
So,
So I see two of them. So do I want to ask where the other three are?
Yeah.
Okay.
On my back.
I didn't see that. That's what I was worried about.
Way back, I went to Oahu, and everybody else was getting coconut postcards and all these different souvenirs. And I went and picked a tiger off the wall and had my first tiger put down on Oahu, which is very simple, off the wall kind of tiger. And then I went to Thailand, and probably on my second or third trip, and I had somebody put the what's called the patit on my back, which is the 8 directions. And there's a tiger in the center of it, which was explained to me as an amplifier of the power of it. It's a protective tattoo.
Nice.
The 8 directions. They generically call it, I believe, the traveler's tattoo. Drawing energy from 8 directions and protecting the wearer. And then the tiger was to amplify it. I don't, maybe not. You know, you get a lot of different opinions about stuff like that and little ideas, but that's how it was explained to me. And I had that done kind of like traditional with the bamboo tip and the long 3-foot needle.
Nice.
Yeah, pictures of it. I'm like, that guy could push that through me 3 times.
Yeah.
And so I had that, and then I went back and had the same person kind of separate this one, which is usually put together.
Back to
and put it on
Thailand?
my forearms. Same thing. His name's Bird. He's in Phuket. He's got this tiny little shop in front of a awesome little cafe called Spoonful of Sugar that I go to when I'm in Phuket. And then the last one was done by Blood Money Tattoos in Berkeley. So Ryan, and it was my 48th birthday, and he scoped it out, and I'm thinking, oh, yeah, that'd be cool. It's gonna be like this big. We get there, and he's like, so I'm thinking like this, and I'm looking at it, it's like from the patit over, off the shoulder, up the side, all this other stuff, and I'm like, everybody's like, that's really big. I was like, that's bigger than we thought. And I was like, I'm committed. I'm the canvas. You're the artist. Go do it. So we just did it.
Yeah.
So,
Nice.
but I was very, very blessed because like a lot of the students stuff, like they kind of threw money in a jar and like, this is your birthday tattoo money.
Oh, cool.
That's
So
amazing.
I was pretty lucky with that kind of stuff, man. I'm really, really blessed with the
So your
students.
last one was on your 40th.
So the last one I got
on your 40th.
was
48th.
my 48th.
Oh, you're 48th. Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's this big one on my left side. So it was 5 tigers. And my thing to myself was like, okay, so, you know, my dad we have the Chinese background, the Cantonese background, so every 12 years, the year of the tiger.
I was going to ask.
So I was
is there
gonna be
a
like,
Year of the
okay, so
Tiger
if I'm
connection?
like 48, that's 4 times through of the year of the tiger. But there's a bunch of weird stuff going on.
Sure.
And I'm not taking any of it seriously, but I'm having fun. But like 4 is not a lucky number in Chinese culture.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I can't have 4 tigers. I better get 5.
Yeah.
So I got 5. But I'll probably get. Who knows, man? Maybe by the time I'm 70, I'll be Tony 12 Tigers. I don't know.
Well, following that, in 12 years on your 60th, be a good one.
12 years, be 62.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're 50. Sorry. That's right.
Yeah.
10 years.
Yeah, so
10 years.
but if we were going by every 12 years, so 48 was
12
year
years
of the
from
Tiger.
48 is what I was saying.
So
yeah.
12 years, so 58.
No, it's be 60.
60. That's what I was going with.
Yeah.
So we got to get the
60th,
collection jar going for the name change.
That's plenty of time. And then with inflation, the cost of the tattoo.
I'm leaving
Lost
for
that.
I'm leaving for Thailand October 1st, so I might come back as
Yeah.
Tony 20 Tigers. I don't know.
20
How
times.
many times have you been to Thailand?
6.
Okay.
And I didn't start till late. It's an interesting story, like the way like my journey into Muay Thai
Yeah. Perfect segue.
is late. I was in martial arts, a martial artist before I was into Muay Thai specifically.
Maybe take us there first, like your journey into martial arts, and then segue over into Muay
Dad
Thai.
was the first instructor.
Right.
Made it a game. Made it a part of life. Would sit there. I have pictures of nunchucks and diapers.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So that guy.
So like, and he grew up in the Bruce Lee era, and I like that. I had all the movies we watched together. We watched all the fights and all that kind of stuff. And he put these giant beat up red gloves on that you can't even find anymore. And I remember they had a marker like on the cuff of the glove. He took a red or blue marker, and that's how you knew if it was the blue corner or the red corner. And he just I don't know why he did that, but he did that. And he started with jab, uppercut, and he'd let me hit him because I was so small. I remember, I think one day I just got too big, and he's like, okay,
That's it.
we're gonna do something different now. But he was the first person. I remember through the progression of years, it was first. I think it was pretty boxing was the easiest one. It was like uppercut, he'd call it out, and I'd learn to do it.
And he had trained in what?
He had trained in Southern Shaolin under John Yi in Panol. And also he had done some stick fighting. So he was all over the place because, the Bruce Lee era was like, learn everything, take what you want, just get rid of the rest, right? And that's how you learn to personally express yourself.
So he was out. So that's right. He was out here in the Bay Area when Bruce Lee was alive
Right.
too. So that's pretty significant. Then.
Yeah.
Cool.
So where were we going with that?
Boxing.
So
you said?
we started with that, but as we went, like he would show me like wrist locks, and he showed me like the 12 strikes of a certain like Eskrima system, like Pressa system, I think it was. And then he would, if I was having trouble at school, he'd be like, just grab him here and twist like that and do that kind of stuff. And then when I got older and I got bigger, like he brought me in the garage, like this is the speed bag, this is the heavy bag.
Were there siblings?
This is where you can. No.
Okay. So the focus was on you then.
Yeah.
Right.
So. Yeah.
Was there training or martial arts in his childhood? I'm just wondering, like.
Not in his childhood,
Okay.
no. But when I think it was probably inspired by the environment. Coming to the United States at the tail end of World War II. You have the Vietnam conflict, you have the Korean conflict, and so I think coming here if you just to see him, you'll get a kick because to see him, like people will still come, hey, kamusta ka? And he's like, yeah, no, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So because for all intents and purposes, he has a strong, very Asian aesthetic. It's the way,
Right.
even though he's mixed.
How many times do you
family's
get
been
that?
there.
How many times do you get the kamustaka?
Over the
I
period
could see
of
that.
years, I have gotten more various greetings and assumptions to my ethnicity than I can count. I was shocked. I used to go to Chinatown in San Francisco on a regular because I was studying Mandarin. I went down to a sub-basement of a business and had someone ask me where to put boxes in Chinese, and I had to tell them in Mandarin, like in broken Mandarin, because I'm not solid with it anymore. But I don't work here.
That's
I'm
fine.
sorry, I don't work here. And I'm like, why does this guy think what part of my aesthetic makes this guy think?
You almost take that as a compliment.
It's different.
Yeah.
It was. I
Yeah.
was thrilled because during that time, as someone who was mixed, I was definitely kind of searching for identity.
Because as a Mexican, when people mistake me for a worker, I don't necessarily take that as a compliment.
It depends on what kind of work.
Depends on where I'm at.
What
Sorry.
you're doing for a living.
Well, no, but it's kind of.
And for the record, your background is what?
I'm
Racially.
I'm just mestizo. I mean, hapa. Call it what you want, depending where you're from. But that's it. I'm Eurasian.
Mm-hmm.
My mom is Caucasian, white, and very much so Polish. Again, with an Italian, Irish. I think our surnames. Wellens is probably something that got. Oh, we can't really spell this as they come through Ellis Island, so we'll call it Wellens. Mm-hmm. And even then, I think my grandfather was adopted. I think out of somewhere off of Eastern Europe. Yeah, and then I think one of the other Bone Steel and Stisi were the other two surnames I believe my mom mentioned from that side of the family. Which I think Bone Steel is German, which is weird because she always says Italian, Irish, and Polish. Yeah. Stisi is clearly Italian, and then on the other side, my dad's side, even though everybody looks Kent. Well, actually, if you went through my dad's siblings, they looked Filipino, Chinese, and East Indian. Which makes sense because in Goa, the Portuguese went up, and Goa was one of our ports. Macau was one of our ports.
Right.
I think they tried to get up into Japan, they cut a couple heads off, and they're like, "No, it's cool. We'll go back to China."
Well, they tried.
Something like that, A for effort. But yeah.
But you've got a good.
So we have
blend
Botello, Pina or Espina, De Sousa, Xavier. I mean, we might as well Filipino. The entire dad's side is this Asian or Pacific Islander in appearance with a Latin last name.
Yeah, heavy Iberian Peninsula.
Yes.
Well, we could just say Tony's very worldly.
Yeah,
and that's we were talking about
Portuguese get around
features,
Yeah.
distinct features. Tony has those features where he can just fit in any room.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
I don't know. It's weird. This is all new to me. This stuff is just me. Pretty much laziness. I don't want to take the time off on my days off to get a haircut or get groomed.
Yeah. I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
I only trim it when the neck hair starts getting itchy.
When
That's
it gets too. Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
when,
I'm
you
not
know when
there
you're, when
yet.
you're
I'm not there
sleeping
yet.
when you do this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's the time.
Or
That's when you know.
or if I get the scruffle from the lady.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's funny. It's almost like when your brakes start squeaking. You know you gotta change your brakes. This starts happening. It's time to
I feel
trim
that.
up.
I feel that.
That's a dad bod take right
That's
there.
a dad bod take. What's the point at which you gotta shave
The neck hair.
the neck hair?
So that said, early martial arts training with dad.
From dad. Want me to go on to that? Keep
Yeah,
going?
please.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
So started with that. Trained with my friends. They thought our house was the cool house because my dad would take even like staff, the sticks, wrist locks, weird jumping kung fu kicking sets and cool stuff like that.
This is here in the Bay in Panola.
So I was born in Richmond.
Okay, so East
I was born in
Bay
Richmond,
in
and
the
then
80s.
it was
East Bay in
El
the 80s.
Yeah, Richmond. My parents lived in San Pablo at the time. We moved to El Sobrante. And from El Sob, at that point, my parents separated. My dad was living in the Bay Area. My mom moved to Martinez, and then I was in Rodeo with her for Tiny Tots, and then I ended up in, I think, at Rodeo Elementary for like maybe first grade before I ended up in Clayton. No, Martinez. Martinez first through fifth, and then sixth grade I ended up, fifth and sixth grade I ended up in Clayton.
Okay. So you did the Contra West Contra Costa tour growing up.
Pretty much, yeah. And then I've lived in various areas all of Contra Costa.
I like how you said El Sobs.
I know.
Never heard
That's
that.
a new one to me.
El Sob?
El Sob.
Man,
El Sob.
Primus. El Sob's number one.
It's the first time I've ever heard it.
Yeah.
El Sobs.
El Sob, yeah.
I think where I was going with it too was just you kind of bury a kid while you were mentioning kind of Bruce Lee was the thing. So you were talking about how like your house was the house because of all the training you used to do. I could totally see that.
I still have very good friends who are like, man, your dad taught me this and that. My dad still I did. So he was just having fun and teaching me stuff, and it just kind of transfused through.
Yeah.
And at the time, it was still a time like before UFC and all, so it was like traditional martial arts, and everybody thought like, you go to the garage and learn the, pressure points, and I don't know, Dim Mak and the 5-star pointed Kill Bill Death Touch or something.
So did you transition to go into dojos and like taking like formal classes? When was that?
That was, I think, now that in reflection, as I think about it more and more in the last, I don't know how many years, my first formal experience, I did some recreational classes. I tried Aikido and some other stuff. And I don't think I was very much into that the culture of it. Like, it was new to me. I was used to like home taught. And then I went to a dojo. I was looking for Kung Fu. We had a Chinese background. I wanted to learn traditional Kung Fu. And so I went to a place and it had Kung Fu listed, so I figured maybe like one of the instructors or something. And I kind of got, I'm not going to say where it was, I just kind of got duped into signing into a contract, and it wasn't. Oh yeah, well, when you get further down, we teach you some Kung Fu techniques. I was like, and I was younger, so I fell for it. I did that.
Belt system.
This is when they used to rope you into contracts, like,
and
like
I don't want to paint
right?
it. So I organize martial arts right now. You have traditional sports combat combatives. And again, a lot of stuff I'm saying is regurgitated just through my education. I've learned and was seeking knowledge. And so you have traditional sports combat and combatives. So this was a traditional gym. But it was just very salesy, like almost McDojo-like. But I mean, I'm glad I went there because it gave me a basis for comparison. You know, and like I remember I was going to leave the gym, and they're like, "We were just about to test you for your belt." And I was like, "I suck." Like, why? Like, I don't do katas at all. I did not like katas. Performing katas and forms, not my thing.
That is pretty common though. My brother trained Taekwondo under Walter Eichner. He was like was Van Damme's. That was Taekwondo mostly, right?
Yeah.
But I do remember he was maybe middle school. It was always like, you know, sign on for a certain period, and then you know, if he was going to quit, then they would kind of push that, oh, you're going to get the next belt, like keep going.
Yeah.
So it's not the first time I've heard
I was
that.
not prepared to take the test, and I slopped through that test, and they gave me the belt anyways to keep me on contract. That was very educational.
I was going to save this. I was going to say, let's hold this thought, but since you just brought up your brother, how does a gym fight that? How does a gym fight the... I guess how does it not get wrapped up into like the whole commercial gym type environment where you're just generating memberships?
I think that has changed with the evolution of the martial arts community, 100%.
In what way?
So, well, when at that time traditional martial arts was still strong. Combat sports and mixed martial arts hadn't come on the scene very much. So you went and you learned your forms. If you want to learn martial arts, it was, Taekwondo is better than karate is better than Tang Soo Do is better than this, that, and the other thing, right? And these were all arts where it's like, we're going to learn our forms and our traditions and do all that other stuff, which is great. Like, you have to have the utmost respect for the traditional martial arts. They have a purpose, and there's a reason that they do what they do. If anything, I say it's often traditional martial arts are a scenic route to the same place that combat sports take you. Because I mean, think about it. Let's do simple math. If I spend 100% of my time preparing to do, let's say, combat sports, like full on, like boxing. When's the last time you heard a black belt in boxing?
Right.
Yeah. When's the last time you heard a black belt in Muay Thai?
I'm stuck on that because the way you phrased it is probably one of the
scenic
most
route. Yeah,
one of the most profound statements I've heard in describing the difference between the two. So I could digress here, but I wanted to find out. So when did you start moving towards Muay Thai?
So I did the traditional thing there. I left there.
The high school?
That was around high school.
Okay.
Yeah, that was definitely around high school.
Okay.
100%. And then for the first time in Concord, where I didn't have to go to city or didn't have to go outside of, let's just say, I don't know, Contra Costa, or my area of Contra Costa. Lily Lau Eagle Claw Kung Fu, Northern Kung Fu, opened up off of Treat Boulevard. Just opened up. Sifu Billy Wong, Sifu Derek Wong, and Grandmaster Lily, and Sifu Kalman. And so I went there, and I was happy. I was there. They specialize in Chinna, which was like I'm probably mispronouncing it, but it's like pressure points and stuff. Like they did a lot of work with Hong Kong constables because they had a lot of like compliance holds and stuff like that.
Wow.
You know, and we had like some of our flary movements. It's Northern style, so I don't know if it's still the same, but like traditionally Northern had a lot of bigger movements, and Southern was like Northern feet, Southern hands. And I heard a million reasons. On the Northern it's cold and the flat, hard ground, so you can kick and jump, but in the soft, marshy grounds of Southern China, it's like hands were more prominent. There's so many things going on with that, but it was cool. It was cool at the time, you know. It's still cool. to think about why each of the arts came to art, because Kung Fu has a really, like, you have family systems, you have animal systems, you have Shaolin systems. It's just interesting. But I went there, and I did the forms, and I did my sparring and stuff like that. But in time, I realized, like, I wasn't showing up for forms classes, but I'd show up in any class that allowed me to hit somebody or get hit, more specifically. So I remember having a white sash. I think I might have gotten 2 green stripes. People who started with the same time after me were advanced ahead of me. But when someone new came in who knew how to scrap, they called me to come in and scrap. So I was like a low-ranking, better skilled fighter, but lower ranked in terms of the overall system, because I just didn't do the traditional stuff. And that was like a big deal to me. That was like a great discovery for me. It's like I realized, like, I'm not really interested in tradition. I'm interested in application.
Yeah.
And so that was a huge, in reflection, maybe at the time I didn't quite recognize it, but what that's going to tell you right there, like, you don't show up for forms class, you don't do the performances, but if you get a chance to throw hands and feet, I'm in.
Right.
I mean, I remember one time we had 2-on-1, and they called me Anthony at the time. Okay, we're going to do 2-on-1 sparring. Who wants to go first? Who wants to go first? Anybody else besides Anthony? Anybody else but Anthony? And I could remember people like,
Anthony, hold on a second. Anyone else?
like this, you know? And we didn't have mats. We were on tile floors.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we had like this little, like we didn't have like the
Yeah.
cool gear. Like, we don't have like tie shorts and shin guards. It was like little foamy pads and stuff like that. And not even full gloves, you know?
But you figured out early you liked the contact.
I liked the application. I wanted practice. I don't know why. I don't think I figured it out, but somewhere in the back of my head it said, like, someone out there is 100% time preparing to actually interact and do either sports combat or combatives. And here I am, and 50-60% of the time I'm learning that. So who's going to be the better fighter?
Do you trace some of that to your training as a young kid with your dad at all, looking back, or can you trace it to something else? Like, did you scrap, outside of the dojo?
I was not a big,
no.
I do not have an extensive street fighting thing. I was actually really small and had big glasses, and I think I was barely 120 pounds when I graduated high school. I had glasses and dressed weird. I had friends in all the groups, stuff like that.
We're going to have to ask for a new grade picture.
Yeah.
Right,
We're going to have to post that.
We're
going to need that.
For contrast.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it was the same. But I'd take a certain amount of abuse from bullies, and then I would just my temperament was all that drove me. I probably wasn't even that skilled, but like once in a while I'd pop off, and then I get left alone. I definitely had a long fuse with a big powder keg, maybe.
Yeah.
For a little guy.
But it's fascinating that you came to that realization after.
I just like application. And that might be my dad too. That might be like what's very practical. I realize that. Like, I don't like wasting time.
Yeah.
And I don't like, if I'm here to do martial arts, and what's martial arts? Fighting to a certain extent. Okay, well, I'm here to learn fight. I'm not here to. I wasn't interested, and I respect the need to preserve tradition, and I appreciate it, and I'm so grateful for my opportunities to do some of that and to be that part of my journey. But in the end, I wanted to know application, and so I slowly started to gravitate to combat sports.
So what age was that when you finally found Muay Thai training? Roughly.
20s?
20s.
20s, like, let's say like mid-20s even. Remember, like, I mean, it's different now.
Yeah.
I can go on and show you any number of fighters and any kind of stuff. We can educate ourselves online right now. No, for me it was like, what's on the latest issue of Inside Kung Fu or Black Belt magazine.
Right.
But I was going to say,
movies,
that's not late at all. That was actually perfectly in time with.
Well, you got some people who are training when they're, well, if you want to go real hardcore, you got Thais way back. They've always been training since they're 7?
Yeah.
They're 12 with 50 fights, 60 fights.
But not in the Bay Area.
But not in the Bay Area. But then you have people who started when they were much younger than I did. I was a martial artist when I was young, but I wasn't like into it like that. And at the time, truthfully, I think what it was, I did a full contact tournament in Kung Fu. And then after that, I think life just kind of changed. I got jobs and I got older and stuff like that. And then moved around and ended up, I don't know where, I think we're the 1990s. I moved to Arizona for a year and studied Wing Chun before I came back. Came back to Eagle Claw, but eventually it just became clear to me that I wanted to do combat sports. I wanted to do combat sports and combatives.
Because I was going to say, you graduated high school...
1992.
92. So 92, how many Muay Thai gyms were around?
Yeah.
There was the pioneers for our area, in my opinion, and this is probably arguable, off the top of my head, were Daniel Docto, and he, I think, was teaching out of a basement of a church somewhere here in Concord. I think that's my first time I really heard about it. And then after that, you had, I believe, the Fairtex, kind of like the forefathers of Fairtex. And there's some other big names that I don't know that were Fresno maybe, or other spots, or were just less prominent. I don't know, not prominent. They were equally successful and skilled, but they're like, but the big ones, in my opinion, was Fairtex opened, I believe, a camp in Arizona somewhere, Phoenix, I think, and it wasn't going well, and they were going to go back. And this was told me by Sir, my coach, one of my coaches, and he said that himself and Alex Gong, the late Alex Gong, rest in peace, they got a hold of Ganya. I don't know if you guys know who Ganya is, Dr. Nee. Yeah, he's like, and he came back and according to Sir, they trained in San Francisco in a restaurant for a while, but then that's what brought Fairtex to the Bay Area. Or one of the ways, I'm going to say it was one of the ways that Fairtex was brought to the Bay Area. Well, with Ganyao came Bunkered Fairtex, Johnson on Fairtex, Jean-Claude Loyer, who fought in K1, Alex F-14 Gong, and George Tsui. And there's a picture of all of them.
Some of the founding
in their
fathers.
blue and black Fairtex shorts like this. Now, I think there was other people who were involved in it, because you have like Master Tita and you have all these different people and these different branches. But those are the ones that I'm familiar with that kind of brought it here. And if you really look at all the local gyms, you will find roots. A lot of the roots are connected to that. So Pacific Ring, you guys, I don't know if you're Pacific Ring in Oakland. Ganyao was often there before he retired. He was there a lot. He moved there. Like, first you had just Fairtex. You had Fairtex San Francisco, Fairtex Mountain View, but you had a bunch of other gyms that
Offshoots. Right.
came out off of that, and they brought other Thai trainers and stuff like that. And there's some other names that are out there, but Bunkered was at Rise. Still to this day, he's gone, but he stayed kind of the same location as the gym's changed. I think he's still training. Ganyao is retired, but he still makes appearances. Sir George Tsui, who was my coach, is at Combat Fitness in Concord. Alex F-14 Gong, it's an interesting story. He was training and somebody clipped his Jeep outside their San Francisco gym, and as they clipped the Jeep, they were on the run, and they ran up to an intersection, and he walked up. He like ran out the door because like, dude, you clipped my Jeep, and he stood out, and the guy shot him. Yeah, so you can look that up. That was a huge blow to the community. Like that was big. That was big, and right there in his gloves and shorts in San Francisco streets. So that was bad. And then Jean-Claude Loyer fought K1, but I think he caught a couple of pretty bad knockouts, and they were just like, sit back, And he actually, I believe, became a stuntman, and at some point he was running stunts for Jason Momoa earlier in the career. I think, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. But he's out of, I think, Montreal. Loyer. Yeah, he's a cool dude. Like, I remember for a while back, I'd be like, once in a while, just, hey man, you're a legend. He's like, hey, thank you, and stuff like that. People treat the stars and the people in the Muay Thai and the combat sports community almost like they treat like celebrities. Like
reverence.
If you went on and I don't know, think of somebody. If you went on like message somebody on Instagram, name a star, you probably wouldn't get an answer response, right? But these people, like, just yesterday, I watched somebody fight, congratulated them on their fight. Not someone I talk to regularly, but someone I follow. Thank you so much. I appreciate you so much. This is someone who just fought on ONE FC.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I think, in our community, they're big names, and the rest of the world, they're like, who? But
outside of the combative sports aspect, how much of kind of that aspect of the culture, maybe the Thai culture, or just the Muay Thai community, kind of sucked you in? It sounds like a lot, obviously, but can you speak to
think
that aspect kind of separate just from the fighting aspect.
I think what it was is I just want application. Like I wanted application. I didn't want fluff. I didn't want flair. I didn't want funny names for different techniques and stuff like that. Man, I want jab, cross hooks, elbows, and then you have 1990s. Then you have the introduction of UFC, right? Which just dispelled so many things. Right, the Brazilians came in, started tapping everybody out. And you had the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu rush that came in. But then shortly after that, you have like Marco Ruas, who was a Vale Tudo guy, and he had good striking. And who else was part of that? Was it Vanderlei Silva, Anderson Silva? They were all part of Shoot the Box, and they had really good striking, as well as ground game.
Yeah. All the family names.
Then you had Pride. After UFC, then you had Pride and Rise and all these different things, right? So, but slowly, if you watch, like people were coming out trying to say, "No, man, my traditional martial arts is still good," and they were just getting aced in the ring over and over, and all the people were like, "Oh man, the reason my stuff doesn't work is because it's so dangerous." And there's some truth to like, hey, street fight is not saying that's a combative situation. It's not a sports combat situation. So I kind of understand that, but at the same time, I think there's a lot of ego involved in that. There's a lot of ego involved in that.
But going back to what you said earlier about starting late in Muay Thai, I mean, it doesn't sound like you started late. I think relative to access to Muay Thai, it sounds like you started right on time.
That was definitely an issue, and it could have been me too. Let's be really honest. Like, I mean, I'm human. I remember I've done the weight cut, I've done the training, I've put myself in the ring a couple times, stuff like that, and I don't know, it could also be me. It's very nerve-wracking. I love training, I love sparring, I love the contact, I don't mind getting hurt. I think I hated the pageantry. I disliked the pageantry. It wasn't for me. Like, if it was just like, hey, walk up to the ring, go scrap, get out of the ring, that would be great, But it was like, all the stuff, all these people watching, all the stuff like that. I wasn't a very boisterous or outspoken person. I was a pretty chilled, subdued, nerdy, sometimes even nerdy kind of person. So I don't know. But
what would you
were saying? How do we avoid? How do we make that adjustment? I think you asked me. Like, what do you do to avoid getting sucked into that space of traditional? Becoming irrelevant.
So let me
define
my question, first of all. What I was saying just in the conversation about traditional martial arts and now combat sports, to me there's a fine line and difference. And this is my own personal opinion, I just think that there's more of like a corporate structure to traditional martial arts. Whereas, as you said, I like the word application. Combat sports is more about application, real life. This is what you would do. So how do gyms now, current times, not get sucked in back to that structure? Because that structure has a purpose. Memberships, ongoing business, of course fees, right? You're paying the bills. You're not just paying the bills, but you're also, it's almost like when you go to a shop.
You're also supporting your and other families.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And then of course there's add-ons, right? The whole belt system. So how does a gym not fall into that structure?
Or how do
That's a challenge.
How do you manage that?
You have to, you have to change with the culture and then with the times. You evolve or you dissolve. So my advice, and I've done some. It wasn't like intended to be a consultation, but I've worked with some people who had traditional gyms. I said, look, what you're doing is great. You're going to get the young ones who want belt systems, and it's very good for them to have. I want that next belt. I want that next stripe, and it's going to keep them motivated. It's going to teach them the discipline, the respect, all the beautiful things that traditional will bring to the table. You might also find some people who's like, hey, look, I'm not sparring people anymore. My joints don't take it, but I still want to stay active, and I want to be martial arts oriented. So they come back into the fold later in life because they can do katas. There's no contact. They still stay fit. They can do their workouts and stuff like that. But with the changing of the times, it became evident you have to have like a combat sports program. And that's not hard to do at all. Like if there's a combat sports facet
element
to almost every traditional martial art, there's a place for arguably almost every thing.
Yeah.
So
there's a target audience.
I have a kung fu school. Okay, so you have your kung fu school and you have your sash system and stuff like that. do you have a Sanda or a Sancho program, Chinese kickboxing program, where it's not based on, you're not rated on your belt. It's as a definition of your skill set. It's your skill set that defines you.
Yeah.
And it's a combat sport, and there's an arena for that, and there is, Pioneer, Kung Lee, San Jose, he was out of San Jose. He's a movie star. You guys have seen him in movies, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
That guy was the pioneer of Chinese kickboxing. He fought in K1 and around the world. Yeah, he was a pioneer. Coach Rudy Ott from down there in San Jose, same thing. He was part of that group.
Right.
Same thing with karate and even taekwondo. I can name K1 fighters. So if you somewhere out there, K1 and Dutch kickboxing and that style of kickboxing came from full contact karate. So cool, have your belt system, have your stuff, but run a class that touches on the combat sports committee, and you will keep your gym alive. When you don't, you're going to have a more limited demographic. That is my opinion.
Yeah, so
purely my opinion.
It sounds, playing it back, so it sounds like you're a firm believer that combat sports can be a reciprocal value add to the traditional.
Correct.
Right? Like either it is a pathway in, and then, folks who may not, really be into the actual combat aspect of it or don't like the contact, then they can kind of branch off.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's just a pathway in for them to just be exposed.
Well, what's
all
the alternative?
Various, right?
What's the alternative? I go to this place, I do katas, I do some sparring in my gi, this kind of thing, And but other than that, there's no option for me here at this gym. So what do? They leave and they find a Muay Thai gym or a boxing gym, where it's like, there's no ranking system here. You just practice until you're good, and your skill set defines you. You look at the crowd of people in your gym, and you be like, that person's intermediate, that person's beginner, that person's advanced, that one's a pro fighter, that one's an amateur fighter, that one's developing through the PMT system or the point boxing system.
I think when I talk to people about it, why they transition, I think the biggest takeaway I have from it is people want to test their physicality, right? That's kind of what you're saying. Traditional martial arts is a lot of technique. There's a lot of pomp and circumstance, basically, right? But then you're not getting, that in-your-face application. You don't even get I mean, you do.
It's like in theory, or
theory.
Let's take a look. I'll take the Pepsi challenge. You can go look at a bunch of YouTube videos of street fights, stuff like that, and you'll see people. You can tell the difference if someone's. There's a couple of highlights of somebody who did a traditional style. It's probably shock and awe that got him to succeed in that situation. The person looked at him, and he was doing all these funny stances, and while they were making fun of him, he cracked him in the face and knocked him out or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
But
to make the Oppenheimer reference, theory only gets you so far.
Wow, nice pull. Interesting.
Yeah. Still fresh.
Wow.
Well, what was it Bruce Lee said? It's not enough to know, you must do.
Yeah.
So, I have a belt in this because I have my katas and I did all this stuff. It's like, but can you fight your way out of a paper bag? Some people can, some people can't. Again, you have to respect the entire spectrum. You have to respect the traditional to combat sports, and then you have combatives, which is a completely different mindset than combat sports.
Yeah, so what's the difference in your opinion?
In my opinion.
For me,
so traditional, obviously, you have a ranking system, and there's going to be gray areas, mind you.
Sure.
You have a ranking system. You're doing kata. You're learning. You may learn some language. That's great. I think that's awesome. You learn to count in different languages and terms and terminology and customs and respect and etiquette.
An exposure to the traditions and culture.
In varying degrees. Like we have a coach here who's gone through some really cool experiences through that system of a traditional system of karate. Combat sports. You are defined by your skill set. You train either recreationally for fitness or whatever, and that journey might take you like, well, what's next? You're constantly asking, well, what's next? Or maybe you're like, I'm good here.
Right. And then the upper echelon is
and then you start going into amateur, but there's still rules, right? I go to Muay Thai, I cannot knee you in the groin, I cannot 12 to 6 you on the spine, I cannot gouge your eyes, I cannot fish hook you, I cannot wrist lock you, even jiu-jitsu, I cannot small joint lock you, I cannot. These are the rules. That makes it a sports combat. Now, jiu-jitsu is one of those weird things. Like, I like jiu-jitsu's belt system, to be honest with you. Because jiu-jitsu is like, I think there's like barely more than 4 or 5 belts, and it takes you years just to get to one of them. Like they do not hand that. Well, unless if they're a good school, they do not hand that stuff out easily. You go through a lot. So like a lot of respect to that. You know, you really have to work your butt. Some people like you don't get another ranking until you've like dominated some sort of prestigious tournament. You know, but back to the combat sports, you have that. It's a rule set. Obviously. Right?
Got it.
Don't gouge your eyes. Now you have combatives. What is combatives? In my opinion, and the way I've learned it from my instructors, combatives is there are no rules. If you don't win, it's not, oh, I didn't get the trophy, or I got knocked out, or I got injured. If you don't win there, and this is going to get kind of serious, you get raped, your family gets hurt, someone gets killed, someone gets maimed, your property gets damaged, there's retaliation. There's no rules, there's knives, there's improvised weapons, there's headbutts, and biting, and tearing, and what they call, oh man, they had a term for it. For law enforcement, it's like, yeah, you can't do that, mayhem, But that's combatives, and that's usually reserved. Hopefully, I wish it was done more often for LEO, military, special ops, and all that kind of stuff. That community where it's like, yeah, man.
Should be that last resort.
A good example in exaggerated Hollywood fashion is like Keanu Reeves trained combatives for John Wick. He didn't train. Oh, hey, jab, cross, hook. It was like small joint lock, whip him to the ground, stomp his head out, move to the next guy.
That's a good example.
Tactical reloads.
So K1,
improvised
UFC,
weapons.
Pride, those fall in kind of the middle then?
There's rules.
It's still
They're
in
the middle
ground.
ground. There's no ranking system. Though some of those martial artists and athletes started in a ranking system and still protected.
So sports.
Who's the Brazilian? Lyoto Machida. Lyoto Machida.
Love Machida.
Yeah, I love him. His whole family is traditional karate, but that guy came in and he found that balance, right? He can apply his preserve his tradition, and apply in combat sports. And then, it's speculation of how well they would apply in combatives.
So it's safe to say, and you can correct me, combat sports, competition, combatives, survival. Is that fair?
Fair. Very fair. Yeah. It's interesting because we've done defensive tactics and self-defense seminars. I've been assistant instructors on some of that. People come in like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so fun, and we're like, yeah. Let me reset your expectation. Because especially I hate to say it, but the ladies are like, hey, they're there with their girlfriends, and they're like, we're gonna learn self-defense, right? And they're laughing, they're having a good time. It's like, and then you start getting serious with them. It's like, so to get you guys in the right mindset, let me put it this way. And this is not me necessarily. This is just my instructors and stuff. If you don't stop me, I'm killing your child. Instantaneously, you get the mama. Yeah, see, he put his drink down. Look at that. He went, hey.
That's when that's called putting your sit down.
Put your
sit down reaction.
Bear, and then suddenly they kind of understand. And it's like, hey, come here, empty your purse. That's a weapon. 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 Do you want to go home to your children? Do you want to go home to your wife, your husband? That kind of stuff. And I'm no expert. I just know that philosophy. It's very serious. And when we talk combatives, it's not like, oh my gosh, did you see that knockout? No, man. My instructor was really cool. He was here in Concord, and he's moved around since, and he worked with a lot of other well-known combatives guys who were former military and EP and LEO, and executive protection and law enforcement and stuff like that. And but he would show us pictures of what it looks like when people get in knife fights and really bad stuff. And it was not because he was trying to do, it wasn't like, hey, check this out, this is cool. It was like, do you understand the consequences that you do this?
Just to demonstrate the gravity
I think
of
it. Someone reminded me recently of the term, the blue worm.
What's that?
The blue worm. You heard of that?
Yeah, you got to elaborate here.
Okay, so in knife fighting, if you get cut across the lower part of the body or abdomen, the internal pressure pushes your innards out, and they're blue at first.
Oh yeah.
Before the oxygen hits them and oxygenates the ladies. I don't know. You guys are medical, so you guys know better than I do.
That's a visual.
So they call that the blue worm. And I think it's a Filipino term from the
better than a blue waffle.
From the Spadidaga, the Eskrima fighters, the knife fighters. Yeah. So what I'm telling you is not claiming to be any kind of super expert on stuff. It's just this is my journey, but that's the stuff I learned. Like eventually, I learned like. You're like, whoa.
So my takeaways immediately are massive jump and leap from traditional to combat sports to combatives, and then also, much like you never Google blue waffle, You never Google blue worm. No, that's me introducing the. Maybe we don't go there.
Let's not.
Let's edit this one out.
Well, hey, when my instructor's showing like pictures from like the emergency room of somebody who got eviscerated, and they're like, it's just them sitting back, and it's just all their intestines like lined up on their stomach.
Yeah.
Well, like before they surgically replace them, I think. I hope.
Right.
I don't know.
So-
or you see like someone who like, instinctively blocked a machete. Their hands like hanging out.
So, I got a question. So your introduction to kind of the sport, the potential combative sport of Muay Thai out here. When did you go to Thailand then? I think I touched on this earlier.
My first introduction, I heard about it through some friends, but when it was still, and it wasn't interested, I was still kind of like, I like my traditional stuff. And a lot of martial artists went through that, like, no, I've spent so much time invested in this traditional martial art. No, it can't be disassembled and destroyed by these combat sports, jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. And truth of the matter, yeah, they're gonna choke you out, or they're gonna beat you. When you're trying to do like the monkey snatches plum technique, they're gonna just throw right across and sleep you. There's a reference, yeah.
Monkey snatch.
Use your imagination to figure it out.
Wow.
So,
I didn't use the imagination. I had to pause on the visual.
No, that was
what you
it.
did.
that was my dad, by the way. My dad would do stuff like that. I guess one of the exercises in his kung fu school is like they had like a 10-pound bag of rice and they held it like this and just sat there and hit it, and like some of the senior students, like the rice had gone to like almost flour consistency.
Oh
It's
shit.
like, man, that's a lot of plums.
Oh wow.
When you've made mochi, it's time to retire.
It's bad. But yeah, but I mean, you can just see the intensity. Like, but there's a spot for everything. Almost everything had a traditional back. There was no K1 without Kyokushin.
Sure.
Without the traditional. But I think what it was is like, I think in traditional, it was very regional. Like Kung Fu systems were set up to battle Kung Fu systems. Karate systems were set up to battle within Japan, and so on and so forth.
Right.
And I think that then you had like boxing, which there was no box. That's just a down and dirty boxing, right? And then it's like, okay, well, boxers are beating traditionalists. Okay, so then you start going to like, okay, well, what if we threw kicks in there from the traditional stuff? Okay, now we have kickboxing? I'm speculating. Okay, well, no. When we go to Thailand, it's like we had Muay Baran, which was actually a military system, right? And that's like the old style Muay Thai. If you look up Muay Baran, and there's like a bunch of little traditional branches that were more, I don't know if I don't want to say traditional. I guess traditional. I don't know if there were systems in them. It was less rules. Muay Thai, before it became their official sport, it became organized for rules.
But I guess where I was going with it more so was probably because you were talking about like the history of a lot of the traditional martial arts, northern versus southern, and how you're exposed to some of that as you study them. I think where I was kind of going with it, as you were exposed to Muay Thai here in the Bay Area, is there a point at which being able to go to Thailand itself and be exposed to it, taking a trip there, like is that part of like a pilgrimage for someone who's training in it, or maybe is it just something that
during a time when I wasn't training formally anywhere, a friend of mine who was a roommate, a little brother to me, who actually was also in the Kung Fu school, we were roommates, and we started training, and we know we liked the kickboxing stuff like that, and so we actually trained for a long time before we signed up at Combat Fitness in Concord. So kudos to Sir. I'm no longer with them, but the experience.
What year is that roughly?
I was in and out of that place. I'm gonna say it was the late '90s, early 2000s.
Okay.
And then I was a coach there for several years. That was about 8 years ago. End of it was about 8 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. And I would say, so to answer your question, like, obviously through my journey, I figured out that I'm not a big fan of forms and katas and formalities and that kind of stuff. I just wanted to know, hey, is this going to work?
Yeah.
That was what it came down to. I wanted practical application. That's the best practical application. So that's what I chased. That was my journey, and that's where my journey took me. It was like more and more I started to find that I was not as much I understood the traditional place in the world of martial arts, but I just found myself steering away from that. And if you do, like I said, simple math, if I spend 100% of my time preparing for combat sports or combatives versus someone who spends 50% or less of their time for that and the other 50% doing katas and board breaking and stuff like that, which are essential parts of the traditional, no disrespect. But you're going to end up with someone who's more proficient at fighting sooner rather than later. Mm-hmm. The other people will also be proficient, but it may take them a little bit longer, hence the scenic route analogy, to get there. Right?
Yeah.
Because I've watched a lot of traditional places, and they always start off with their stances, but eventually, when you watch them spar, we all look like we're doing kickboxing or Muay Thai.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the
hands up, chin down.
Malcolm Gladwell study, right? Outliers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Opportunity, practice equals success, or practice with opportunity, application equals success.